The FBI releases its list of terror terms that it used to identify potential terror threats, and, well, I hate to say it, but I'm gonna say a lot of you are probably on that list. Based on the list of terms that they're putting out there, I definitely am. But we will talk about that, what's on the list, what this means, and what we can do from there. In other news, the authorities have released the body cam video footage of what happened in Louisville. We are not going to be watching it here because I did do a review on this and this will violate YouTube's TOS, so I will not be going over that. But we've got some stills that are safe, so we'll talk just a bit about what happened there, what this means, and what we're doing with that. Tennessee Democrats' reinstatement is praised as a resurrection and an Easter miracle, as more and more of these people try to tell you that it's not a religion while continuing to act like it is a religion. And just in case your gas prices aren't high enough, turns out that Joe Biden missed the golden opportunity to restock the strategic oil reserves. And yeah, I don't know if there's going to be another opportunity like this while he is president, so we'll talk about that. It is going to be all of this and more. I was the one flying the balloon. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is your evening news. We're probably going to get out of here early again tonight. I'm looking at the stack, I'm looking at the clock, and thinking to myself, man, we do not have a lot going on here tonight. It's one of those things, too. Like, we have another major news story off of this, and there's so much going on. There's so much going on that our friends over on the left and in the mainstream media can barely go back and talk about how much they hate the evil Donald Trump. And he's getting indicted, and he's going to go to prison, and all the other fun crap that they love to say about that here. They don't have a chance to say it because it's just one thing right after another. And there are things that are missed too. Like, before we talk about what's happening with Louisville, there actually was another shooting today, but it's so weird. This one's getting completely ignored. Possibly because of location, but Breaking 911 has it. But, I mean, our big story is what's happening with the FBI. So we'll go through what we've got here. We'll see what we've got here. Tell a friend, tell 10 friends, get some more people in here, get some live chat going, and we will be talking about what's happening here. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming, such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and more as we come together to bring you a better news experience from the common man for the common man. That is right for too long. We've all got our news from people who wear suits that cost more than our houses, no more. Instead, get your news from people who are like you, people who've had to make some of the same decisions that you have, and people who look forward to seeing the best outcomes from the middle and even the lower class rather than just the best incomes for their donor class buddies. So go check out all that great programming. I am going to be, because some of these programs that I advertise at the top are defunct now, so I'm actually going to start scouting and finding people. There are a few people that I do want to talk to about being on the network. Some of them, silent gesture, I do need to kind of put the elbow into to see if we can't get him onto the YouTube side, so we've got someplace to pull his live streams from here. But I do kind of want to do this a little bit differently than we've been doing here. And there are some people that can't join the network. There are some people that don't have shows anymore, and there are some people who have been signed to other networks at this point. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, do check out all the people that I have mentioned before as we shift things around and look at what we have going with that. And let's get down into the news of the day. Let's get the... Whoops, wrong scene. This scene. So we're going to start up here with the Dow like we usually do. Put the live chat up so we can see what's going on here. Yes, today's episode is going to be based and red-pilled indeed. In fact, once we get through finance, that is going to be top story because we missed it yesterday. So that's what we have going on here. Let's have a look at what's going on in the news today. Starting with the Dow is at 33,684.79. Let's actually look over and make sure that I'm still have volume here because that happened yesterday. Again, I haven't figured out what happened with that yesterday, by the way. Like, I switched over to the main news scene, and I had no volume, and I don't know why. I went back and I checked the replay, too, and it wasn't when I came out of the cold open. It was when I switched to the news scene. I still don't know what happened with that, but let's get into it. Looking at the Dow is at 33,684.79 after a steady rise before another fall off at the end of the trading cycle. So that is up 98.27 points or 0.29% on the day. Looking in at your Bitcoin, which had a spike at the beginning of trading, which was at 6 p.m. yesterday, and then held steady throughout the rest of the day on trading. So that is where we are sitting at with that $30,256 Bitcoin is coming back, you guys. I don't know how long it's going to stay up, and I would never tell you to go and hedge your bets and go buy a bunch of it right now. Go buy a whole coin or something, because there is always the possibility that it will drop back out and dump back down below 16,000 once again. It's a volatile asset. It is something to look at. This is not official financial advice, but if it's something you're interested in, definitely go back and have a look and talk to your financial advisor to see if it is in your best interest. We are up $597 on the day, or 2.02%. So that rally is continuing to go. Looking at your gas prices around Madison, mostly unchanged. $3.40 on the west side, $3.50 on the east side. So, well, actually, I've got those exactly backwards. I got my east and my west backwards. How the hell did I manage to do that? Sorry, $3.40 on the east side, rather. $3.50 on the west. So that is what we have going on for that. Let's grab one from investing.com to see what the futures look like. Dow futures tick 0.1 higher ahead of CPI and earnings. From Oliver Gray, U.S. stock futures were trading slightly higher during Thursday's evening deals after a mixed session among major benchmark averages as tech slipped while energy and financial companies lifted ahead of the closely watched inflation data due later in Wednesday's session. By 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 10:30 p.m. GMT, Dow futures, S&P, and NASDAQ were each trading 0.1% higher. Ahead in Wednesday's trade, analysts are expecting March's annualized CPI reading to come in at 5.2 versus 6, which, by the way, is still outrageous. And I'm going to laugh my ass off if it comes down even hotter than that. But still, I don't understand where they still think this is good news. And they do still think this is good news, by the way. I don't get it. We're at 5%, which people were talking about was the be-all, end-all, and was the most terrible inflation gauge that there was, back when it was 5% from coming up. And now we're doing 5.2% on top of 9.8%. And nobody sees a problem with this. And again, I actually still think this is going to be higher, so that's what we have for that. In addition, the federal budget balance and minutes from the latest FOMC meeting will also be monitored by market participants. Later in the week, earnings season is slated to kick off with major financial companies JP Morgan Chase & Company, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo set to report results alongside United Health Group Incorporated. During Tuesday's regular trade, the Dow added 98.3 points, or 0.3. The S&P finished flat at 4109, and the NASDAQ slipped 52.5, or 0.4, to 1231.9. So that's what we are at in the financial world. We don't have any layoffs to report today, but we do have some aftermath of the layoffs From the New York Times, a former newspaper. California economy is on the edge after tech layoffs and studio cutbacks. From Curtis Lee. California has often been at the country's economic forefront, now as fears of national recession continue to nag. The state is hoping to not lead the way there, while the California economy maintains its powerhouse status, outranking even those of most countries. The state's most powerful sectors, including tech companies and supply chain logistics, have struggled to keep their footing, pummeled by high interest rates, investor skittishness, labor strife, and other turmoil. Even the weather hasn't cooperated. Severe flooding throughout much of the winter, caused by atmospheric rivers, has left farming communities in Central Valley devastated, causing hundreds of millions of dollars in crop losses. Thousands of Californians have been laid off in the last few months, and the cost of living is increasingly astronomical. And Governor Newsom revealed in January that the state faced a $22.5 billion deficit in the 2023 to 2024 fiscal year, a plummet from the $100 billion surplus a year ago. It's an EKG, Mr. Newsom said at the time, comparing the graph of the state's revenue with the sharp spikes and drops of the heart. Electrical activity. That sums up California's tax structure. It sums up the boom-bust. The structure, which relies in part on taxing incomes of the wealthiest Californians, often translates into dips when Silicon Valley and Wall Street are uneasy, as they are now. Alphabet, the parent company of Google, one of the state's most prominent corporations, said in January it was cutting 12,000 workers worldwide, and the Silicon Valley Bank, a key lender to tech startups, collapsed last month, sending the federal government scrambling to limit the fallout. So these layoffs are, they're not just happening in a vacuum, and they're not just causing the people to be sad and miserable and economically strifeful. They are actually causing the government of one of the largest economies in the world to be having an issue, and luckily that is within our state, but that's the 7th largest economy in the world somehow. I don't understand how, but it's not a good sign, and I do anticipate seeing a lot more people leave that state as we go, but that is where we are at. For our finance for the day, we're going to start our main news with a tweet from the Libertarian Party National. First, you're like, fourth, Mr. Scott. I don't know if you can see what I have over here, or if you can see it on the live chat on YouTube, but into Luke Wee and Grant, we're all before you. Alright, from the Libertarian Party. According to the FBI, using these terms might mean you're a violent extremist. How many of these have you used recently? Grant's on the list twice already. Here are the terms that they're pointing out, but we actually have some more of these that we're going to talk about. Based, red-pilled, blue-pilled, normie, Chad, LARPing, incel. Are they joking? No, they're not. And they have the screenshot of the article that talks about this, so I'll be going over some of these terms here. In fact, we will go right to the Daily Signal to talk about this. Here's the FBI glossary for flagging violent extremism. From Fred Lucas. The FBI uses a glossary of terms to look for online that could indicate someone's involved with violent extremism, according to documents obtained by the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project. The flag terms include red pill, first popularized by the 1999 film The Matrix, based, looksmacking, and the names Chad and Stacy. I remember the first time I heard Chad and Stacy, and it was on Matt and Blonde's show. Because I'd never heard that terminology. I don't think a lot of people had heard that terminology before, because it kind of came out of the woodworks after that. What was it? It was a truck of peace. I remember that's what it was. It was a truck of peace attack, and the person who did the truck of peace attack had said that his intent on doing the truck of peace, it was a Canadian truck and peace attack too, was that he was so sick of the world being controlled by all the Chads and Stacys of the world. The FBI also flags phrases that include "it's over" and "just be first." The documents were obtained by the Heritage Foundation's oversight project through a Freedom of Information Act request. Such words and phrases have come to be code for certain extremists who communicate online with others like them, according to the FBI's glossary of words, indicating racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism and a list of key terms about involuntary celibate violent extremism. According to the FBI document, the word cell is short for incel, which in turn is short for involuntary celibate, or an online community of men who think they can't attract women even though they want to be in a relationship. Docs we obtained show the FBI equates protected online speech to violence. The Oversight Project says in a tweet, according to the FBI, using the terms based or red-pilled are signs of racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism. Another tweet from the Watchdog Project says using terms like looksmaxing, Chad and Stacy will get you on an FBI list for involuntary celibate violent extremism. The FBI didn't immediately respond to an inquiry Wednesday from the Daily Signal for this news report. Spoiler alert, they're never going to. Let's look at the document, and then I've got a little bit from Fox News on the same thing. So, the FBI, involuntary celibate violent extremism. Involuntary celibate violent extremists are involuntary celibates, incels, who seek to commit violence in support of their belief that society unjustly denies them sexual or romantic attention, to which they believe they are entitled. The incel community is primarily an online community composed of individuals, most of whom are men who blame political or social movements such as feminism for empowering others to deny them romantic or sexual attention. While most incels do not engage in violence, IVEs have conducted at least 5 lethal attacks in the US and Canada since 2014, resulting in 28 deaths. Well, that's 5 in 9 years, so you're not even getting 1 a year. You guys are having so much fun with these words, and I love seeing it. I love looking over to my left and seeing this, by the way. Let's see. IVs often glorify previous IV attackers, including founding forefather Elliot Rodger, who killed 6 individuals in California in 2014, as well as school shooters, including those who have no connection to incel forums or IVE ideology. Targets. IVs primarily target those who they believe are unjustly denying them sexual or romantic attention, which in most cases are women. IVs also blame attractive men for competing against them for female attention, and more broadly justify the targeting of normies, a term used to describe normal people. Mr. Scott, no, not you. It was Spartan who used that one in my live chat. I think about the last time we saw Spartan, but of course, remember, DLive has not been working for almost 3 weeks, and that was his primary modus operandi for coming in here. While IVs often call for physical or sexual violence against specific identified individuals, IVs also pose threats against groups they believe to contribute to their incel status. Past attacks have included federal buildings, colleges, sorority houses, public walkways, storefronts, yoga studios. In 3 of the 5 IVE attacks since 2014, women were the primary target of the victims. All 3 IVE attackers in the US have utilized firearms in the commission of their attacks, with one attacker also using an edged weapon and vehicle, while 2 of the IV attackers in Canada used rental vehicle and an edged weapon, respectively. Of these 5 attackers, 3 posted pre-attack messages outlining their ideology or attack plans, and 1 shared a manifesto at the time of the attack. That sounds like 4 feds to me. Alright, but we can go through a lot of this here. We're here for the terms. So, here are key terms. Amazing hero going ER, supreme gentleman. These I've actually never heard. Any of these. A reference to IV attackers Elliot Rodger and Alex Minassian going ER is often used to state the intent to emulate Rodger by committing a mass attack. Rodger described himself as a supreme gentleman. That might be because I wasn't particularly activated in 2014 yet at the time. I was mostly in the Fox News crowd, just watching Fox News and wondering if Obama's economy was ever going to get better for me. I hadn't really started, well, I guess I had started analyzing politics at that point. I'd been doing basically a dating and lifestyle blog, but it was just becoming more political. So I wouldn't say that I'm at the point where I'm at now by any stretch of the imagination, partially probably why I hadn't heard any of this before. Any of this, because this was a 2014 attack. Ascension, a term used to describe an incel leaving incel status by gaining sexual or romantic attention. Basically what my plot was. I'm going to do a little side note off this. Back when I was still living in Redacted, I was seeing a girl. I'm not going to give her name. I had been seeing a girl for a while. Very, very liberal girl, but very open to everything else. And we were talking one night, and I was talking about who was I talking about? I was talking about one of my incel friends who many of you probably know. I'm still not going to name names off that. And I said, yeah, I've got. This guy is total out incel. Great guy though, fun to play board games with, that kind of thing. And we were talking a little bit more, and she kind of stopped the conversation and went back to that. And she said, "Wait, you're not an incel, are you?" And I kind of looked back. I'm like, even if I was, you've got the tools to correct that. It's not rocket science, and the pieces fit. Oddly enough, that turned her on even more. I thought that was going to be the point where I never heard from her again. Dash cell, a suffix which is added to the words to describe specific types of incels. Examples include ball cells, incel who is bald, height cell, incel who is short, rape cell, incel who condones rape, fed, escort cell, incel who supports the use of prostitution to gain sexual attention. What about femcell? I'm kind of surprised that one's not on there. Let's see. Chadpreet, Chang, Tyrone. Race-specific term used to describe idealized version of a male who is very successful at gaining sexual and romantic attention from women. Incels unsuccessfully compete against Chads for attention. Femoid, Foid, and Roasty. Another side note off of that one. Because the only person I've ever heard, and I will name names off this one, the only person I'd ever heard use the term roasty was Midget B. And I thought that was an anti-Semitic thing. I did, for the longest time. Because they always used it about Nikki Fried. I actually thought that's what that meant then. It's really not hard to figure out where you go from that, where you can come from one to the other on that one. I didn't know that had something to do with the flaps down there until basically he told me. These are terms used to dehumanize females. I've only heard one of those three terms, by the way. Just be first. A phrase used to describe the targeting of minors for sexual advances in order to become their first sexual experience. Oh. To the wood chipper with these ones. Before their perceived corruption by society, and is justified by some of the only chance incels have to ascend from incel status. Dude, those ones have got to be feds. It's over. A comment which describes the hopelessness of being an incel. The typical response to this comment is, "It never began." LDAR, acronym for Lie Down and Rot, which is perceived as the only option for incels to cope with their incel status. Looks matching, a term used to describe the matching of the attractiveness levels of both romantic partners, which incels see as a solution to the perceived problem of unattractive men having no potential partners. Looks maxing, the process of self-improvement with the intent to become more attractive, which is really what we should all be doing. It's the reason I haven't had a carb since Sunday. MGTOW, acronym for Men Going Their Own Way, which refers to an online community that does overlap with the incel community. No, because those are volcels. Those are not incels. Neat. Isn't that what the knights say in Monty Python? No, I'm sorry, that's NEET. NEET, N-E-E-T, acronym for Not in Education, Employment, or Training, which signifies that a person is truly hopeless, not used exclusively by incels. Normie Blue Pill, derisive term used to describe normal people, not used exclusively by incels. Red Pill, Black Pill. Red Pill refers to a belief shared by many online communities that society is corrupt and that the believer is a victim of this corruption. Black Pill, which is specific to incels, refers to a belief that this corruption can only be changed through massive societal restructuring, often including violence. None of what is in that particular phrase is accurate, FBI. Red Pill refers to a belief shared by many in the online community that there is a higher structure that's out there that's intent to keep many of us down for issues of enslavement and treating us as tax chattel. Black Pill indicates a lot of hopelessness, that there's nothing that's going to change. Not that you can change anything by violence, but I can see why they're getting this on here, because they need their normie audience to come back out and believe that anybody who says these words is a direct threat. Yeah, there is nothing in that particular cell that is wrong, that is correct. Rope, a reference to committing self-deletion by hanging. Sorry, there's YouTube censors out there. Stacy, idealized version of a female who is very successful at gaining sexual and romantic attention from men, chooses Chad over incels. I've had a few of those. Significant literature. For the incel community, Mein Kampf by Hitler, obviously. Siege by James Mason. White Power, George Lincoln Rockwell, which that one I've never heard of. Next Leap, an Iron March anthology by Alexander Stavros, also I've not heard of that one. And Turner Diaries by William Pierce, or Andrew MacDonald. I have heard of that one. In fact, I'm probably on a list just because I looked that up one day, because Mitch B. again brought that up in Discord, and I had never heard of that prior, so I Googled it. And now I am on a list. Other influential literature, Esquire's Trial, Alexander Stavros, American Futurist Manifesto, Alexander Stavros, Lighting in the Sun, Savitri Debe, 88 Precepts, White Genocide Manifesto, David Lane, that sounds charming. The Unabomber Manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, Theodore Kaczynski. Uncle Ted. Hunter, by Andrew MacDonald. The Brigade, by Harold Covington. Leaderless Resistance, by Louis Beam. I have only ever heard of one of these books. Two of these books, technically. Influencer Attacker Manifestos, 2083, a European Declaration of Independence. Anti-Muslim, anti-immigration, anti-feminist. And The Great Replacement, 2019. Breton Tarrant mirrors Breivik's manifesto and focus on anti-immigration, anti-Muslim themes, introduces anti-corporatism, environmentalism, ecofascism, and accelerationist themes, which means this is straight up Marxist. Other influential historical figures to the incel community: Tim McVeigh, Richard Butler, Benhart Klassen, Matthew Hale, Harold Covington, Tom Metzger, Miguel Serrano, Pantilincola Julius Evola. Only ever heard of Tim McVeigh. And the rest of the terms that they're going to use. 1488, also 14 and 88 individually. Usually refers to the 14 words, which I'm not going to read on YouTube, obviously. And 88, obviously, for the HH. The echo, parentheses, which my friend Salacious Swanky Cat loves to use. Sometimes called echoes. Midget likes to use those too, by the way. RMVs often use triple parentheses around a name to indicate the person is Jewish, or that an institution is under Jewish management. That one I had to look up too at one point. Accelerationism, a concept holding that the existing social order should be pushed to such a degree that Western countries become failed states. They're doing that on their own. They don't need help. Hoe in another row, can up some more vegetables, and grab some popcorn to watch. Alt-right, a shortened version of alternative right, is a loosely associated movement of identitarians, white nationalists, and others who reject traditional conservative politics and advocate for the preservation and protection of the white race in Western civilization. Also, Feds. Based, RMVs use the term to refer to someone who's been converted to racist ideology or as a way of indicating ideological agreement. No. It's someone who is heavily traditional and based in traditions. Blood and soil, a slogan used by the 30s German regime that some RMVs adopt to assert racial purity and ties to the land. Never heard of that one. Day of the Rope. Don't have to go too far into that one. Goy. We know what that one is. Great Replacement. Jews will not replace us, you will not replace us, etc., etc. That's not that hard to figure out. LARPing. A term which stands for live action role playing, originally meant to describe a role playing game in which participants act out their roles as fictional characters. RMVs and their associates use the term online to deride individuals accused of not being as extreme or in possession of skills or other valid characteristics that they claim to have. No, LARPing is more the RMVs themselves pretending to be members of the German Party from the 1930s, pretending to be their idols. Poll, which is for 4chan. Rahowa, racial holy war. That doesn't really require a major dictionary. Some of this I probably can't even read on YouTube. Red pill. In the context of RMVE ideology, taking the red pill or becoming red-pilled indicates the adoption of racist, anti-Semitic, or fascist beliefs. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, and I'll add that you guys are morons. Shoah, or Shoad, a Hebrew term for the Holocaust. RMVs sometimes adopt the term to make light of the Holocaust in an anti-Semitic context. Siege culture, a term used to describe the ideological and operational themes advanced by adherents to James Mason's siege. Individuals who adopt these policies are often said to have been siege-pilled. I've never heard the word siege-pilled. White genocide refers to some R&B's beliefs that white race is in danger of extinction due to forced assimilation engineered by... Probably can't read that on YouTube. That's probably going just a little bit too far. And Zog. I didn't know what that meant until today. Also, probably can't read that on YouTube. There's probably a good chance that... Well, I'm pretty sure that this episode's getting flagged anyway. I'm like 90% sure this entire episode is getting flagged, so... Let's not push the issue too much. I just want to... Like, I don't usually do live chat on Tuesdays, but I just kind of want to see what you guys are doing with this one here. Grant says base red pilled. What about woke? Yeah, woke is not on here. I'm a little surprised that one actually isn't on here. Yeah, the left glowy stole that one. LARPing. Grant says, is this a based and red pill podcast that dunks on the blue pill normies, or is this an incel podcast, LARPing is a chat podcast? Mr. Scott says, I'm on all the lists. I could start calling the leftist nuggets or something, then saying nugget would get you put on a list. Grant says, Chad and Stacy come from the dating world and mostly associated with incels, but might have come from the pickup artist culture, which a possibility. Although I was kind of in that culture for a while and I never heard that. No, Karen is not on there. Grant says, Law & Order tried to make an episode about incel terrorists killing Chads and Stacey's. It was cringe as the Gamer Girl episode. Can you find me a season and episode number on that one? I want to see that. That's probably long after I stopped. Long after I stopped doing Law & Order. Which I would binge Law & Order. I know it would probably take me a year and a half to do. But I would binge Law & Order SVU. I don't know if I remember the Gamer Girl episode either, by the way. Yeah, Grant kind of went on the same thing that I did with that girl I was going on with. The FBI should solve the problem by hiring women to go undercover and make the incels not incels. If there are no incels, there can't be any incel attacks. Insert big brain meme. I always said that they should take all the rad bems and all the incels. Just round them all up in a video game. But round them all up and put them all in Lambeau Field together. And seal off all the doors. And empty out all the food vendors of all the normal food. And instead fill every food vendor with a lifetime supply of chocolates, lobster, and steak. And champagne. And roses. And just leave Lambeau Field sealed up for 6 months. In a video game. You know, this probably sounds a lot more extreme now that I'm saying it out loud. Maybe I shouldn't go down this road. Let's see. Grant says looks maxing is mainly about working out, so you're not fat slob, which I kind of am. Maybe some other things like bathing and not dressing badly. Oh, I dress awesome. Nobody has a better print t-shirt collection than I do. Mr. Scott says the glowies are just making this up now. This is what happens when you diversity hire Zoomers. Grant says MGTOW, the whole thing is basically the invention of feminists. MGTOW might have never been a problem causes regardless of what they might believe. The only reason to be mad at MGTOW is because you want to force them into relationships. Neat. Never heard it just be first. Mr. Scott says this was definitely written by a single mom. Surprise Passport Bros on there. I don't know that one. Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised NBC and Pepe aren't on there. Diversity hired Sumer. They have Ted's books, but he's not an influential figure. Ted got robbed. Don't know who Terry Davis is either. Apparently incels do like Elliot Rodger, but also like people like Patrice O'Neal. I don't know who Patrice O'Neal is. I know who April O'Neal is. Mr. Scott is apparently on a 24-hour ban for telling a noob how to sage. I don't know what saging is, and I don't know if I just committed a violation of YouTube's terms of service. There's probably some secret FBI document about the adoption and corruption of the word woke. Huh. Alright, anyway. That is the terror watch list. And again, as I said, most of you watching this either live or on the replay are probably on it right now. And if you're not, you will soon. I have no idea if this episode's going to stay up on YouTube or not, if I'm going to get a strike again. I have absolutely no idea. But I'm kind of glad that I won the appeal on my last one. So that's what they have going on for that. From Breaking 911, moving on, talking about the left's 2024 platform. 4 shot, 1 killed in shooting at DC funeral home, cops say. And if you're wondering why you didn't hear anything about this, well, it happened in Washington, D.C., and there's probably one obvious demographic that goes along with that. From T. Grant Benson. Police have confirmed a shooting incident took place on Tuesday at a funeral home in Northeast D.C. A total of 4 people were shot and 1 person was killed. Upon arriving at the scene, law enforcement and medical personnel discovered that several people had sustained gunshot wounds. Police said at a news conference the crowd outside the funeral home appeared to be targeted, which tells me this was probably gang violence. Holy shit, that's me. Good God, how long has it been since I've used Facebook? I'm sure glad they don't have my name up there. Wow, that is an old photo. I remember when I took that picture. 2016 rather. No, it was later. Was it 17? When the hell did I buy my tan truck? Yeah, 17. It was right after I bought my tan truck. It was like the first day it got warm when I bought my tan truck, which was in September of 2017. So, you are never going to hear about this again. This will be added to the statistics of mass shootings, but you will never hear about this again. Just like an interesting one that we did last year on this channel, in which I found out that the shooting actually happened right across the street from my cousin's house. I found that out after we reported on it, where there were automatic weapons being used. And it appeared to be gang targeted, and you never heard about it again. But moving on and going on to Lowellville, because you will be hearing more about this one here. Authorities in Lowellville released body cam video of police response to shooting at bank that left 5 people dead. Coming from CNN from Mark Morales, Elizabeth Wolf, Laura Lai, John Miller, and Holly Yan. Go look up Terry Davis. He was a 160 plus IQ programmer, but he was a schizo bit too. He wrote his own operating system. Linux Tech Tips did a video on Temple OS. I'll do that in incognito mode. The Louisville Metro Police has released the dramatic body cam video of officers responding to the Monday bank shooting where 5 people were killed and an officer fatally shot the gunman. I have watched the video. We are not watching the video on YouTube. That is a strike waiting to happen. The video that the police department released is uncensored. So, the video shows the tense moments between police officers and the shooter, Connor Sturgeon. It begins with a video from the officer Nicholas Wilt, who drives up to the scene with his training officer, identified as Corey C.J. Galloway. Wilt, police said, was shot in the head as he ran towards the gunshots police were facing. As they arrived, he is listed in critical condition. Wilt's camera shows him following Galloway up the outside steps to the bank, his service pistol in his hands. The video cuts off before he is shot. No, it does not. I don't know what video you guys got, but no, it does not. And it's pretty gory, too, by the way, the rest of it. Body cam footage from Galloway, who was also shot, shows him taking fire, then retreating to a safe position behind a planter, as officers talk about how they can't see the gunman and that he is shooting through windows in the front of the bank. Shooter has an angle on that officer. One officer can be heard saying, "We got to get up there," he adds. Deputy Chief Paul Humphrey said the gunman broke out glass from the lobby windows when he fired. Officers who could finally pinpoint his location shot back. I had another article on this up here today. I guess I didn't. Because I thought I had the one where they talked about the fact that he bought everything illegally. Huh. Interesting. I don't know how I missed that. As he looks into the bank lobby, Galloway's camera audio sounds out with several shots. Suspect down, get the officer. One officer yells as he moves up the stairs and into the bank to investigate further. It appears that Galloway was the one who took the lethal shot. Humphrey lauded the actions of the officers. Wilt was a brand new officer. He had no experience. He was going based on 2 things, his training and his character. And you will see he never hesitates, even after getting shot at, Humphrey said at a news conference where 9 minutes of video was released. When the shooting was over, officers and teams from other agencies re-entered the bank with supplies and started providing medical treatment right away, Humphreys told the reporters. After talking to medical staff, Humphrey said it's 100% certainty that those swift actions saved lives. The actions that they took tried to follow up after being shot at themselves, to be compassionate and provide medical treatment, absolutely saved lives that day, Humphrey said. Officers took Wilt to the hospital in a patrol vehicle, officials said. So, we can actually talk about the legality of it too here, because we don't have to go with the Washington Post. CNN provides that for us. The shooter legally bought an AR-15 style rifle at a local gun dealership 6 days before he used it to kill 5 of his colleagues, the interim Louisville Metro Police Chief said on Tuesday. Currently, Kentucky imposes no waiting period between the time of purchase and the physical transfer of a firearm. According to the Giffords Law Center, by comparison, some states have waiting periods of up to 7 to 10 days. It is still not clear what provoked Sturgeon, a 25-year-old employee, to go on a deadly rampage at Old National Bank and livestream the gruesome attack on Instagram. Sturgeon had interned at the bank for 3 summers and had been employed there full-time for about 2 years, his LinkedIn profile showed. The assailant had been notified that he was going to be fired from the bank, a law enforcement source said on Monday. I want to, by the way, I want to see why he was, I want to see his HR record. I want to see why he was getting canned. Because again, my belief is that he went and talked to the pretty teller. And he decided that he wanted to go out with her and she had other ideas. But then she went further and went and told HR that she was feeling very uncomfortable by the fact that he made an advance on her. I am 9 times out of 10 positive that that's what happened. Because every report that I've seen otherwise says that he's fantastic at his job. So until somebody shows me otherwise, that's really all I have to go on. Craig Greenberg, the Louisville mayor, said that he doesn't believe the shooter was given any notice of termination. From what I've been told from an official at the bank, that is not accurate, Greenberg told reporters on Tuesday. Now investigators are I wonder if I wonder if they scrubbed that from his record. That would be interesting. Now investigators are combing through the footage and other evidence to try to understand what led to the massacre that also left several wounded, including a police officer who was shot in the head. Officials executed a search warrant at Sturgeon's home, but interim police chief Jacqueline Gwynn Villarreal declined to say what was found. Body cam footage from the rampage will be released around 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, which I've seen. The footage will first be released to the victim's family so they can see it before the public, a law enforcement source said. The carnage marked the 146th mass shooting this year, with 4 or more victims, not including a gunman, according to the Gun Violence Archive, but most of those happen in the inner city and are gang-related, and therefore you'll never hear about them. And the AR-15 and its offshoots have been the weapon of choice in many of the most horrific mass shootings in recent memory, including Covenant. Just 2 weeks ago, that's reignited a fierce political fight over gun control. And again, as I pointed out the other day, one of the problems with that is the fact that these people continually use a weapon that is engineered for long range. Now, to see the Vegas shooter use that is not as surprising, because he did everything Hong Kong from a long, long range. He did everything from a long range. He, the alleged Las Vegas shooter, did everything from long range. But the majority of these close quarters jackasses, and I do understand, by the way, that most of them are over 18, mostly not 21 yet, the Nashville shooter aside, which I have a litany of questions about that one. But the Nashville shooter aside, they're mostly under 21, but over 18, so they're able to get a long rifle, but even still, I mean, to do something on a close range like that, with something with a rifled barrel, you lose mobility, you lose some of your impact. I don't buy the fact that they're just going out and grabbing, and you lose your concealability. So it blows my mind that they keep using these things, and yet the vast majority of this 146 number that they keep bringing up happen with easily concealable handguns. Apparently the Covenant body cam footage is eyebrow raising. He used a 16 gauge with slugs. That's a super rare firearm. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever even seen a 16 gauge in my life. I have a 20 gauge. I have used a 12. And I've used a 410. I've never used a 16. What the live stream shows, it took just a minute for the gunman to complete his rampage before he stopped and waited for the police to arrive, according to footage of the massacre described by a city official to CNN, which, by the way, also raises many, many more questions. Why did he stop and wait unless he wanted to be caught with an AR-15 in a public place after having a mass killing? The video begins by showing an AR-style weapon, followed by a worker in the bank saying, "Good morning" to the gunman, the official said. "You need to get out of here," the shooter is heard saying to the woman on the live stream, which has been taken down by Instagram's parent company, Meta. The gunman then tries to shoot her in the back, but can't because the safety's on. and the weapon still needs to be loaded and charged, probably, the official said. Once the shooter loads the weapon properly and takes the safety off, he shoots the worker in the back. Her condition is not known. The assailant then continues his rampage, firing at workers while they tried to outrun him, the official said. The shooter does not go to the other populated floors of the bank, the official said. Once the shooter is done firing, he sits down in the lobby area and looks out onto East Main, apparently waiting for police. The killer waits about a minute and a half before the police arrive, a swift response praised by local leaders. And a gunfight ensues, the official said. The gunman was struck and killed. The entire incident, from when the gunman started shooting to when he was killed, lasted about 9 minutes. Louisville Police Lieutenant Colonel Aaron Cromwell says, "This makes me even more suspicious." After the first bullets flew, there is a few minutes after that, before we get to the first call on it. 3 minutes after that is when we respond to the scene. And then about 3 minutes after we respond, the subject is neutralized. At one point, a police dispatcher alerted officers 25-year-old white male, Connor Sturgeon, 6'4". He's texted a friend, called a friend, left a voicemail saying he's going to kill everyone at the bank, feeling suicidal according to Broadcastify audio. The timing of the dispatch wasn't immediately clear. So everything in that paragraph just raises more questions. Like, this is not a person who is... typically when somebody goes and spends $1,500 on a rifle, that person's experienced with the rifle, knows how to use it, and is trained for it. And by the way, this is not the first rifle this person has owned. According to the other reports, he bought 3 of them legally. And then he just waits for the police to get there. He doesn't run. He doesn't try to hide. He sits there and waits. I haven't seen the meta video. I'm just going by what they described. I've seen the body cam video and that's it. But I have way more questions after reading this article. We've got some stills from the body cam that I wanted to go over with the New York Post. So, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, somebody gave birth in an elevator. Mazel tov. There's the beginning of the shootout. A little bit more from the beginning there. Close up still. The shooter in the security camera just waiting. So, we've got the stills for that. And some of the aftermath, of course. So, way more questions than what I had before. David Hogg had to get into this one. From The Blaze. David Hogg gets torn to shreds after calling U.S. Senator Rick Scott complicit in death of Scott's friend killed in the Louisville massacre. From Dave Urbanski. This little moron has sold more guns in this country than anybody the NRA could put up. Outspoken and unintelligent gun activist David Hogg got an earful on Twitter after calling Republican U.S. Senator Rick Scott of Florida complicit in the death of Scott's friend, who was killed in the Louisville massacre. Among the deceased was 63-year-old Tommy Elliott, and Scott mourned him on Monday night. My friend Tommy Elliott was killed in Louisville. He was my banker for many years. The news is very shocking and sad in Ann and me. He did so much for the Louisville community, and we pray for his family during this awful time. Hogg was decidedly uncharitable to Scott amid his painful loss, which may not come as much of a surprise to anyone who knows about Hogg's past statements and antics. Must be tough knowing you're complicit, he says. Hogg added a subsequent tweet to Scott, your staff is also literally met with survivors of gun violence and said that they don't care. It's extremely hard for me to have sympathy for you. You have an enormous amount of power that could have been used to prevent what happened today and in Parkland. Brian Suits of KTZed in Seattle told Hogg, you're now twisted by what you think you hate. Come up for air and see the cartoon of yourself you've become. Brandon Morse of Red State said, you might be one of the biggest pieces of crap on the platform. Matt Whitlock says, with crap like this, you've done more damage to the cause you care about than probably anyone else in the last decade. Log off. Other commenters agreed, before I thought you were just a fame-hungry ghoul, but now I realize you're just a terrible person at your core. What a disgusting thing to say to anybody. This might be the most heartless and cruel tweet I've read in a long time. Wow, your mother did a terrible job of raising you, another user observed. Hogg posted a number of other incendiary statements to Twitter in reaction to the massacre, but one in particular tweet posted Tuesday morning stands out for the irony. Hogg tweets out, to be honest, I think it might be social media more than anything that prevents us on making progress on addressing gun violence together, because it kills all nuance and only polarizes people more. There's a lot we do agree on and aren't doing. Mr. Scott's coming out with the extremist language here. Alright, let's talk a bit about what's happened in Tennessee. And we're actually already going to be starting to wind it down for the day, it looks like. Looks like my Twitter's been going nuts too. Alright, Tennessee Rep Justin Jones speaks to our guest minister by saying to the State House Speaker, we must hold him accountable. He must resign for his attacks on democracy. What we saw on Thursday was an attempt to crucify democracy, and this is from the readout. Joyless read. Let's watch. By the way, this may be triggering to people because from what I am told, leading a group of protesters down the street to march on the Capitol is an insurrection. So if you are afraid or terrified by insurrection, you may want to log off for about a minute and 58 seconds. Let's watch.
We're live with Joy Reid on MSNBC. If you want to say a word, Joe, please.
Today is an important step forward for democracy, but it's not the end. That they tried to kill democracy on last Thursday, but today is a testimony of resurrection, of people power. We hope we will continue to show up here in the legislature because Cameron Sexton needs to resign. We need action for common sense gun laws. We need to support these young people who are begging for their lives. And so today is not the end, but it's the beginning. It's a testament to this movement that they cannot attack us, and we will just bow down. But we're going to stand up and rise up together.
All right.
Can you see if you can ask Representative Jones what his agenda, what will be the first item on his agenda when he gets back, Mark?
Justin. Hold it. Justin.
See if you can ask him
Joy
that.
wants to know. Justin. Joy wants to know what's the first item on your agenda when you get back in the House?
It's a push for common sense gun legislation, red flag laws, banning these militarized guns like AR-15s, and passing universal background checks. That's what these young people are asking for, and that's what we're going to ask for. And so we're going to continue to call for common sense gun legislation. We're trying to save lives. And there's another mass shooting today in Kentucky. And so we know that this is a systemic issue that we have to address with policy. And so we will continue to fight. Are you okay? So thank you so much. We hope people will continue to pay attention to what's happening here in Tennessee because it's the spotlight of the world that has got them to not obstruct democracy today.
Amen.
Does he expect the speaker to be cooperative with him?
Do you expect this? Joy wants to know if you expect the speaker to be cooperative.
I think as long as the camera's here, he'll fight. Sorry, we gotta
Okay.
But we must hold him accountable. He must resign for his attacks on democracy. Because it was the most extreme example. What we saw Thursday was an attempt to crucify democracy. So we come here today as a testament to resurrection of democracy.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, your insurrection for the day.
We're live with Joy Reid on MSNBC. If you want to say a word, Joe, please.
Today is an important step.
Again, I remind you that I was told that leading a group of protesters to the Capitol to walk into the Capitol is insurrection. From Fox News, Tennessee Democrats' reinstatement praised as resurrection, Easter miracle. From Lindsay Cornick, I'm really surprised that the man upstairs is not throwing out the lightning bolts lately. MSDNC guests compared the reinstatement of one of the Tennessee Three to Jesus Christ's miraculous Easter resurrection on Monday night. The Beat with Ari Melber, guest host Melissa Murray, spoke with various guests as they reacted live to the news that the Tennessee State Rep Justin Jones would be reinstated on Thursday, after his seat being expelled by Tennessee Republicans on Thursday. Justin Pearson, who was also expelled, is expected to get his seat back this week as well. Jones's reinstatement news was followed by a massive gathering in support of the Democrat, which Murray described as jubilant. It's a jubilee. Yeah, now he's spitting religious nonsense, that's right. Reverend Mark Thompson appeared as one of the many guests live at the rally, with the announcement coming on Easter Monday. Thompson also remarked on how Jones and Pearson were resurrected despite Pearson's vote still being up in the air. The word is right, it's jubilant. Last week they sent these two gentlemen home, but it's Easter weekend, so they've been resurrected. They're back in their seats, and whatever the Republicans were up to has been thwarted for now, Thompson said. I would love to listen to the Daily Ignoramus on this one. Unfortunately, typically while he is live, I am at work, but man. As religious as Stephen is, oh man. Thompson made similar comment while appearing on the readout shortly after, remarking, "When you said watch God work, we witnessed..." No, don't say that. We witnessed was really an expulsion during the weekend of the crucifixion. So here's the manifestation of that truth, the resurrection, and Justin Joe Truth crushed the earth to rise again. Called it that himself. I can't believe the level of cringe of what I just read. That's exactly what this is, so people feel jubilant just after being expelled. He has now been restored. You see, I put the dresser behind me, and now I can't turn around and beat my head against the wall when people say things this stupid. Lord, is it time to come back yet? Here's a shocker for you. FBI admits 13 of the Proud Boys involved with J6, 8 or more of them were paid by the FBI to provide government information about the group. The FBI was the majority of the Proud Boys, only 5 are being prosecuted. We're actually going to put this on. We're going to explore that one a little bit because I put that up intending to grab an article about that, and then I didn't do it. Oh look, we're back to looks maxing. We'll come back to that one. Some government officials behaving badly from NPR. And remember, hit that donate button because NPR has lost its funding and has had to lay people off because they don't have their commercial funding and taxpayer funding is not enough. So hit that donate button so they can continue to tell you all things considered, even though they only consider Democrat things. DA Bragg sues Jim Jordan, claiming an unconstitutional attempt to undermine the case. From Ilya Maritz. The New York persecutor, who is pursuing criminal charges against former President Trump, says a Republican-led congressional committee is trying to interfere with his case. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg alleges an unconstitutional attempt to undermine his investigation. The House Judiciary Committee and Bragg have been sparring since it became clear that Trump would be indicted. Last week, the committee subpoenaed a former attorney in the DA's office, Mark Pomerantz, who wrote a book that was critical of Bragg's legal judgments. Oh, sign up for the newsletter. Bragg is hitting back at the committee, suing to block Pomerantz from testifying. He says Congress has no power to investigate local prosecutors, and that the subpoena violates the state's sovereignty and is politically motivated. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan responded to the tweet saying Trump was indicted for no crime and that Bragg is trying to block congressional oversight. Meanwhile, the Judiciary Committee is planning to hold a field hearing on Monday at 0900, just a short distance from both Bragg's office and the courthouse where Trump was arraigned. So, not a lot of details here, but it looks like the lawsuits are flying. We'll look into ABC and see if there is any further news off of that. Bragg's lawsuit seeks to stop the enforcement of the subpoena, arguing basic principles of federalism and common sense. Dude, don't bring up federalism at this point, because you're only bringing it up because it's convenient. Just like the Donald did at the end of his campaign in 2020. Which ironically was one of the reasons that I decided to go vote for him at the very end, but you're only caring about it because it's convenient. As well as binding Supreme Court precedent forbids Congress from demanding it. The lawsuit accused Jordan and House Republicans of participating in a campaign of intimidation, retaliation, and obstruction, and noted how Trump has threatened New York officials with violent and racist vitriol. The House Judiciary Committee, chaired by Jordan, will hold a field hearing on April 17th in New York City to discuss victims of violent crime in Manhattan. There, lawmakers will examine what the committee called Bragg's pro-crime policies that have led to dangerous community for residents, according to a press release issued Monday night. A spokesperson for Bragg's office quickly shot back, "Don't be fooled. The House GOP is coming to the safest big city in America for a political stunt. This hearing won't engage the actual efforts to increase public safety, such as supporting national gun legislation and shutting down the iron pipeline." The spokesperson also said New York has a murder rate nearly 3 times lower than that of Columbus, Ohio, Jordan's home turf. Yeah, but there are 12 times the people. So, this will be interesting to watch. Some good news from the Associated Press. Biden ends COVID national emergency after Congress acts. I mean, it's been over for like a year, 2 years maybe even 3 at this point. From Zeke Miller. The U.S. national emergency to respond to the pinko-pox pandemic ended Monday as President Brandon signed a bipartisan congressional resolution to bring it to a close after 3 years, because it's no longer politically convenient, weeks before it was set to expire alongside a separate public health emergency. The national emergency allowed the government to take sweeping steps to respond to the virus and support the country's economic, health, and welfare systems. Some of the emergency measures have already been successfully wound down, while others are still being phased out. The public health emergency underpins tough immigration restrictions at the U.S.-Mexico border is set to expire on May 11th. The White House issued a one-line statement on Monday saying Biden had signed the measure behind closed doors after having publicly opposed the resolution, though not to the point of issuing a veto. More than 197 Democrats in the House voted against it. When the GOP-controlled chamber passed it in February last month, the measure passed the Senate by a 68-23 vote. Biden let lawmakers know that he would sign it. The admin said once it became clear that Congress was moving to speed up the end of the national emergency, it worked to expedite the agency preparations for a return to normal procedures. We are so far from normal, it's not even funny. Among the changes, the Department of Housing and Urban Development's pinko-pox mortgage forbearance program is set to end at the end of May, which is, by the way, going to make the housing market very interesting. And the Department of Veterans Affairs is now returning to a requirement for in-home visits to determine eligibility for caregiver assistance. Legislators last year did extend for another 2 years the telehealth flexibilities that were introduced as the pinko-pox hit, leading health care systems around the country to regularly deliver care by smartphone or computer. So, I mean, and it's about time. It really is. There's still going to be a large amount of government overreach, and our political enemies are going to be demanding that they keep the powers that they had during this, but it's time. It's about time. From the Daily Wire, Biden missed golden window to restock strategic reserves. He depleted, oil CEO says, from Ben Ziesloft. Canary CEO Dan Eberhardt remarked that President Brandon missed a golden window to replenish the depleted strategic petroleum reserve when oil prices were reasonably low. OPEC, an economic bloc constituted by Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and other countries with a large share of the worldwide oil production, recently issued an unexpected reduction in output, causing oil prices around the planet to soar. Brent crude, the benchmark for fuel drilled in the Atlantic Ocean, increased from $79 a barrel to $85 per barrel on April 11th. Eberhardt commented in an interview with Fox Business that the train has left the station. With respect to Biden replenishing the strategic reserve, a stock of emergency crude intended to minimize the impact of fuel supply disruptions, since the price of oil is unlikely to fall below $80 a barrel for the foreseeable future. At least not until 2025. Actually, this is an unofficial prediction. This is a speculation for me. Oil is going to hit $50 a barrel about Memorial Day. Memorial Day, yes. Yes. It's going to hit 50. It might even go below that. About Memorial Day of 2024. About the time that people are going out for their summer travels. So they're going to be using a lot more of it. But also about the time they're starting to, especially independents, are starting to make their final decisions on who they're going to vote for. I am willing to bet that for the summer of 2024, gas is going to be $1.75 a gallon. I don't have a crystal ball. There's no Santeria going around here. But given what we see coming out of everything, that's the only strategy that I can see. And I can see them doing that too. I mean, it happened during during his tenure. It happened at the end of Obama's tenure. And I don't know how they're going to get the worldwide price down to $50 or lower a barrel. But I anticipate that's when it's going to happen. But yeah, he should have been topping some of that back off before the announcement was made that they were going to cut production. In yet another blow for the Democrat Party, which, I mean, there are a bunch of people fleeing the sinking ship. From the New York Post, Dems dealt another blow as Louisiana Rep. Jeremy Lacombe jumped ship, the third to switch Republican in a month. From Brandon Gillespie. Democrats were dealt another blow from within their own ranks this week as yet another state lawmaker declared he was leaving the party. Capital T, capital P. According to a Monday report by The Advocate, a Louisiana-based newspaper, State Rep. Jeremy Lacombe announced that he has left the Democrat Party and would be registering as a Republican. It was not immediately clear what prompted Lacombe's departure. However, he is now on the second Louisiana Democrat in less than a month to switch party affiliations, and the third nationwide after a state lawmaker in North Carolina did the same. Last month, Louisiana Rep. Francis Thompson gave Republicans in the state house a supermajority after he switched his party affiliation, and earlier this month, North Carolina State Rep. Tricia Cottom gave Republicans the state house a supermajority with her switch as well. The switches come as President Brandon faces a near record low approval rating among key groups including women, 43% now, 42% low. Voters ages 45 plus, 41% now, 39% low. Suburban voters, 41% versus 39% low. Rural voters, 31% versus 30% low. And Democrats, 81% rather now versus 78% low. Democratic men, in particular, 79% versus 78% low, according to a recent Fox News poll. So, well, that'll be interesting. I kind of wonder how many more people are going to come back out and do this. And again, as I mentioned last week when we were talking about this, how these people are going to vote, because their party affiliation, by the way, matters less than how they're going to vote. And I would be curious to see how Cotham voted in North Carolina on the transgender bill. I haven't followed up on that yet, so that's something to look forward to as well. A little bit of news out of my state. I'm going to start wrapping things up here in just a minute. I thought we'd be done by now, but we spent an exorbitant amount of time on this document back here, so. But I bet you we're done before 8. Cardinal Stritch closing at the end of the semester. From Kelly Meyerhofer. Cardinal Stritch University, which has been serving students since 1937, is closing its doors at the end of the spring semester, the college president announced on Monday. We're all devastated by this development, but after examining all options, this decision was necessary, President Dan Schultz said in a video announcement. I wish there was a different path I could pursue, however, fiscal realities, downward enrollment trends, the pandemic, the need for more resources, and the mounting operational and facility challenges presented as a no-win situation. The university's Board of Trustees recommended the closure to the Sisters of St. Francis of Assist after determining that the Fox Point School could no longer provide a high-quality educational experience our students deserve, he said. The sisters accepted the recommendation and set the closing in motion, Schultz said. The school celebrated its 85th anniversary last summer. The school enrolled about 900 undergrads and close to 500 graduate students in fall of 2021, according to the federal education data. Commencement will still be celebrated at the Wisconsin Center this spring, Schultz said. So, and I know I've heard a lot about Cardinal Stritch. I don't know much about it. I will completely come up here and admit to. But this is, and I know I should have pulled this up before here. I believe I've been here at one point. I have been here. I know I have. I think I applied for a job here at one point. No, that's in Minnesota. I don't want that one. (6801) Yates. Yep, I have been here. So, and this is a private school, by the way, in the north side of Milwaukee. It's a religious institution, but I mean, nobody is safe at this point. The bad economy, the pandemic has hit all. And the continuing bluing of Milwaukee has made it even harder for a religious institution to stay. Now, Milwaukee is a very, very Catholic area. And Cardinal is a Protestant school, if I remember correctly, but is it down here? Is this the one I'm looking for? This is the one I'm looking for. So this is already permanently closed. The actual university is up here on the north side. Because this is the one that I've been to. And it's a sad thing to see, and even the students are saying how they're in disbelief about this. From WISN 12 out of ABC, which is the local ABC affiliate. Students in disbelief over the school's closure, from Mallory Anderson. Hours after finding out their university is shutting down through a video message from their school president, students at Cardinal Stritch on Fox Point are still in disbelief. I actually found out while I was at work, said Siobhan Dittmer, a senior and volleyball player at Cardinal Stritch. So, not a great experience. I work in customer service, and I had to finish the rest of my shift and be like, yeah, I'm having a great day. How about you? It was really stressful. As a freshman, Leilani Rubio was just getting settled. Now she'll have to start fresh. It is frustrating at all that you just had to apply to colleges about a year ago, and now you're back to applying to schools again? Asked WISN 12 News' Mallory Anderson. Absolutely, Rubio said. I'm kind of trying to hide the fact that I'm so frustrated, but it's how life is. I just get to roll with it. 12 News reached out to the Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi, who founded the university, to discover if they have any plans for redevelopment. They said right now there are no plans for the campus or its buildings, or any further information about the redevelopment or sale would come from the university administration. Around 1,400 students are enrolled at Cardinal Stritch. So, it's a sad point.
We are all
to see another
devastated
school-
by this development. But
To see another school fall like this. Got some Twitter news as we're wrapping things up here. Have ye interview him. That'd be gold. Twitter no longer exists as a company, officially merges with X Corp. From Lawrence Richard. New court documents show that Twitter Incorporated no longer exists. Journalist Laura Loomer, who is suing Twitter among other social media companies, posted a photo of a legal filing amid a series of tweets Monday that show Twitter has merged into X Corp, which is a privately held company under X Holdings Company. Both are owned by Elon Musk, who still runs the daily operations of the social media platform Twitter. Pursuant to Rule 7.1, subsection A, Section 1 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedures, the undersigned counsel for the defendant X Corp, as successor to in interest to named defendant Twitter Incorporated, hereby states that Twitter Incorporated has been merged into X Corp and no longer exists, the legal filing stated. X Corp is a privately held corporation. Its parent company is X Holdings Corporation. No publicly traded company owns 10% or more of the stock in X Corp or X Holdings Corp, the legal document continued. The document was signed by Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, LLP, and attorneys including Jonathan Patchen, Michael Gottlieb, Meryl Conant Governski, and Kristen E. Bender, and Yuhan Ellis Chi. The case includes Loomer suing Meta Platforms and Facebook, as well as their CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Twitter, and former CEO Jack Dorsey and Procter & Gamble. The racketeering case was initially filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, San Francisco Division, May 2nd, 2022. In a separate filing in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, Miami, Twitter attorney Joshua Webb also amended legal documents to show Twitter Incorporated has been merged into X Corp and no longer exists. So, I don't know what is going on with this. Musk has not publicly revealed the change, although he's kept a public pattern with the letter X, including the name of his child, a website he owned, X.com, before he co-founded PayPal, and current names of his companies and projects, SpaceX and Tesla Model X. Early Tuesday morning, Musk cryptically tweeted X as reports of the change trended on the platform. Musk tweeted last year that his intention behind purchasing Twitter was to create the X app, an everything app that will include social networking, messaging, and a payment system. One of those things I would never ever trust a social media site for, by the way. I'm just going to come right out and say that. As far as what's happening with this, I don't know if this nullifies Loomer's lawsuit at this point. It'd be kind of funny if it did, actually. Or if X takes on the liability of this. I'm not a legal mind. I didn't go to law school. But the official merger has happened, and I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen with Twitter after this. I did note the other day, and it's gone back to being the Bird app again. Like if you go through and in the midst of their loading screens, wherever the Bird used to be, there was a Doge, but the Bird is back. If you use desktop. So, apparently they're going forward with stuff. We've got some FBI news that isn't about what's happening and how they're identifying that you're a terrorist. From the USA Today, you might want to avoid using free public charging stations. Here's why. If it's free, you are the product. That is how you should understand everything. From Amanda Perez Pintado. I don't know why it is that they think I'm having trouble starting my stream. We're going live over on Odyssey. Let's see. The FBI recently warned against using free public charging stations, saying hackers can use the connection to transmit malware into your device. So can the business owner, by the way. The agency advised consumers have their own charger and USB cord and use an electrical outlet, which, again, you should be doing anyway. Avoid using free charging stations in airports, hotels, or shopping centers, the FBI's Denver office tweeted last week. Bad actors have figured out ways to use public USB ports to introduce malware and monitoring software onto devices. The tweet echoes the guidance on the FBI's website. The FBI's Denver office said in an email that nothing prompted the reminder on social media and that it was a standard public service announcement. The Federal Communications Commission has also warned against juice jacking, as the malware attack is known. Malware installed through a compromised USB port can lock a device or export personal data and passwords to the hacker, according to the FCC. Hackers can then access online accounts or sell the information to others. To avoid juice jacking, the FCC advises you use an AC power outlet, bring your own USB cable when you travel, and carry a portable charger or external battery. The FCC also suggests carrying a charging-only cable that prevents data from sending or receiving while charging. All good ideas, by the way. Sometimes, and it will take forever, by the way, to charge, especially in some of the newer handsets. But sometimes it is the best way to go back and go about things too, because, I mean, I don't want to get juice jacked. But sometimes just that little $5 cable that you can get from the gas station. That'll protect you because there's no data transfer capabilities for those. Which is why they charge so slow. But still a good idea to go back and bring your own AC adapter. Alright, 3 more, and then we're out of here for the day. From the New York Post. Bud Light's marketing VP was inspired to update fratty out-of-touch branding. And, by the way, at that point, alienating the vast majority of their customer base. From Alexander Hall. Bud Light's vice president of marketing discussed in a recent interview how she was inspired to update the fratty and out-of-touch humor of the beer company with inclusivity. Alyssa Heinerscheid did an interview with the podcast Make Yourself at Home on March 30th when she discussed her work on transforming the Bud Light brand. I'm a businesswoman and I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light, and it was this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time, and if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. Heinerscheid said. So, this is the way that you went with it? Really? Because I'm going to say right off the bat, you weren't going to stop making money because all the people who gave up on Bud Light switched to Busch Light, especially around here. Busch Latte is like a national drink around here. I don't drink it. One, beer stopped working for me right around the time I was engaged for the second time. That's number one. And number two, even when I was drinking cheap beer, whether for flavor or because it was still working for me, I was a Miller man. I was never into the Busch and Anheuser-Busch side of things. But just in this state alone, the Busch Light can will keep your Anheuser-Busch afloat. You don't need to rebrand Bud Light. I am Wisconsin's native son. When I drink cheap beer, it's Miller. Although I much prefer Horny Goat Brewing, New Glarus. I love New Glarus. Spotted Cow, tits. I'll even go Leinenkugels before I go Miller or Busch. I don't think you can get Spotted Cow outside of Wisconsin, though. Which is a shame, because it's really good. I do like Sam Adams, too, actually, a little bit, by the way. I haven't had Sam Adams in years. I am completely off topic at this point. Heinerscheid's comments have gone viral days after Bud Light and its parent company, Anheuser-Busch, received backlash for partnering with Dylan Mulvaney. The beer maker ignited a firestorm earlier this month when it celebrated Mulvaney's 365 days of girlhood by sending Mulvaney a custom-made cans featuring the influencer's face. Mulvaney said the cans were her most prized possession on Instagram, with a post featuring Bud Light partner. A video then featured Mulvaney in a bathtub drinking a Bud Light beer as part of the campaign. After the host asked Heinerscheid about how her background, perspective, and values impacted the Bud Light brand, the Bud Light vice president said, "I'm a businesswoman. I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light, and it was like, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time." Why are we repeating this, by the way? Because they just said this earlier in the article. She added further that she had a super clear mandate that to evolve and elevate the incredibly iconic brand. She said that what she brought to the brand was belief that to evolve and elevate means to incorporate inclusivity. It means shifting the tone. It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter and brighter and different and appeals to women and men. I'm surprised that you're not more into Coors, but I mean, if it makes you sick, then obviously don't do it. But I mean, I remember you in the live chat. You're Denver adjacent, aren't you? So like Coors is your backyard beer. Like me and Miller, obviously. Over here it's probably more like me and Leinenkugels. Heinerscheid suggests that representation is sort of a heart of evolution. You have got to see people who reflect you in the work. She then disparaged the work of Bud Light as Bud Light's past branding, which is really, really, really going to affect your audience. We had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light has been kind of a brand of fratty, out-of-touch humor. Yeah, the frogs. And it was really important that we had another approach, she said. So some of this is know your audience, and Heinerscheid doesn't. All right, let's grab one from the Times. Suspicions multiply as Nord Stream sabotage remains unsolved. From the New York Times, a former newspaper. Erica Solomon reporting. Russian and Danish naval vessels that disappear in the Baltic Sea days before an underwater pipeline blast. A German charter yacht with traces of explosives and a crew with forged passports. Blurry photos of a mysterious object found near a single surviving pipeline strand. These are the latest clues in the hunt to reveal who, last September 26, blew up the most of the Kremlin-based Nord Stream pipelines, some 260 feet below the Baltic Sea, that were once the largest supplier of Europe's natural gas. Just a few weeks ago, the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported on a new intelligence, along with German police findings reported by the German media, suggested a possible solution to the Nord Stream puzzle. Pro-Ukraine operatives renting a German pleasure boat and pulling off a fantastical covert mission. Since then, a flurry of new findings and competing narratives has sown distrust among Western allies and presented an opening for Russian diplomatic pressure that has raised the geopolitical stakes in Europe's Baltic region. Nowhere is the tension felt more strongly than among the 98 residents of Denmark's Christiansø, an island so tiny you can walk across it in 10 minutes. Living just 12 nautical miles away from the blast site, everyone from the herring pickler to the inn sheep seeks skies and waters filled with foreboding. Before the blast, no one talked about Nord Stream. I didn't even know how close we were until it happened, said Soren Thim Anderson, governor of Christiansø. Afterward, we all felt exposed, and we were all wondering, what really happened here? Hey, none of that. I like distilling with corn, which involves brewing with corn first. The pleasure boat at the center of the German investigation, the Andromeda, docked at Christiansø Stone Harbor after being chartered in the northern German port of Rostock on September 5th and making an overnight stop at Wiek, a more obscure North German port with no security cameras and little oversight. A local port worker who asked not to be identified because of ongoing investigations told the Times he remembered the visit unusually well. He had repeatedly tried to speak to the crew, first in German, then English. Instead of attempting any kind of reply in any language, one man simply handed him the docking key and turned away. Well, we're gonna go with the predictions with no crystal ball here, but I don't know that we're ever gonna find out who this was, and yet deep down I think we all know who this was. And it really saddens me at this point. And the last one, just an interesting little period piece for us that we were discussing at the end of Clown World Chronicles last Friday. It was after the show, we were doing the discussion afterwards. Trump has been charged, but Ulysses S. Grant was the first president to ever be arrested. So no, this is not his actual. This is not as history making as people try to make it out to be. This is from Eliza Chassan. More than 150 years before former President Trump was arrested, a sitting president, Ulysses S. Grant, was in trouble with the law. Grant was an apparent speed demon with his horse and buggy. He was stopped by police in Washington for speeding several times. Kathy Lanier, chief of DC's Metro Police Department, told WTOPE in 2012. Grant was taken into custody after he was caught racing his buggy on M Street. They ended up letting him pay a fine and walk back to the White House, Lanier told WTOP. The officer who stopped Grant in 1872 was William H. West, a former enslaved person and Civil War veteran, according to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. West was one of the 2 black police officers to work for the police department in Washington at the time. The officer spotted Grant speeding twice. The first time, West gave Grant a warning and sent him on his way, but West saw the president speeding again the very next day. "I'm very sorry, Mr. President, to have to do it, for you're the chief of the nation, and I am nothing but a policeman, but duty is duty, sir. and I will have to place you under arrest, West said, according to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. Grant was released on $20 bond, now equivalent to about $430 after his arrest. West continued his work as a police officer until his retirement in 1901. West and the arrest were featured in the Washington Evening Star on September 27, 1908, 7 years before his death. I got the 1901 and the 1908 confused there for a second. No, he retired in 1901. He didn't die in 1901. Apparently he died in 1915. The general's love for horses and his pleasure in driving were the cause of his trouble, the article noted about Grant. So, just a little bit of an interesting period piece. Because they keep trying to say this is historic, and I guess it really isn't, after all. And even this was an arrest for a nothing burger, just like the Trump stuff. Alright, let's look at the rules of acquisition and head out of here for the night. Oh, I need to come over here for that. There we go. Actually, we did the full show. I didn't think we were going to, by the way. I didn't think we were going to make it to 7:30. But again, we spent a lot of time on this document. There was a lot of stuff in here to talk about. Alright, every Tuesday we look at the rules of acquisition, the charter rules of the Ferengi Society, and the charter rules for their religion. Following of these rules to as best as Ferengi possible, not humanly possible obviously because they're not humans, nets you a trip to the defined treasury after death, in which you can come back and bid on a better life for yourself, or a worse life, depending on how well you upheld the rules and how much credit you have when you enter. So we look at the rules of acquisition. We look at how to be good capitalists, what we can use in real life versus what we can use or what can't be used in real life, how this affects the fiction and how this affects reality. Surprisingly enough, even though this was all supposed to be a mockery of capitalism, a lot of the stuff that's in the rules of acquisition really does play well into actual real life capitalism. I was surprised when I got, even when I started reading into these, how much of the rules of acquisition are actually applicable to real life, given the fact that Roddenberry was such a staunch communist that I thought this was all going to be just a mockery, but it's not. These are actually really good rules. Where are we at? The 183rd. We were actually talking about this a little bit as we were talking before. When life hands you ungleberries, make detergent. This is from DS9 novel Hollow Men, which I've not read. It's on my list of things to read. Like almost all the DS9 books are on my list of stuff to read, by the way. But it took me so unbelievably long to read The Sum of All Fears. I could be like through 40 more books at this point, but that book was so dense. I plan to put that book on Things I Like and Things That I Hate on Thursday, by the way, because I will be finished with it by then. I'm on the last few pages. I'm at 98%, and it took me well over a year to read it. Not because I read slowly, but honestly, that book was so dense. But we're going to talk about this in 2 days on Thursday. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. When life hands you ungleberries, make detergent. A play on the classic golden rule of us, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Now, a little bit different because of the ungleberries and the detergent, because obviously you do different things with detergent than you do with lemonade. But still, you take the time and you make the best out of the situation that you have. It's something that I learned for myself. Again, another thing that we're going to be talking about on Things I Like and Things That I Hate is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I understand is supposed to be girl boss, girl power kind of thing, but I still kind of relate to Midge Maisel's strife, because a lot of what happened to her in the beginning, first few episodes of there, were really of no fault of her own. Something she should have explored a little bit more and understood a little bit more, but still, given the 40s and 50s, nobody would have expected her to do so at the time. So, and occasionally you do get things that happen to you, and life sometimes comes back and kicks you in the teeth. Everybody knows it happened to me when I was in my 20s. Even in my early 20s. I thought I had it all planned and all settled out, that I was going to go out to the East Coast, found the love of my life. I thought I was going to be getting married to her. And then she tried to convince me to off myself, which threw the rest of my life into a tailspin. But I look at it back now, and I do look at it was tough at the time. But the ever-driving force to try to make the best out of what you have. I mean, even now, I'm struggling a bit, just trying to get caught up. Moving across the state is really expensive. I don't know if anybody knows that or not. Getting started, not knowing anybody, trying to find everything, trying to find grocery stores in the midst of 5% over 9% inflation too on top of that. It is a really expensive thing to do. And I could sit here and complain all the time, which I do for 2 hours a day. But realistically, I mean, what did I take out of what I had before, and what do I do now? Number one, I found a closet to live in that's really close to work. I don't have to spend a fortune on fuel. That's a big one right there, even though I spent the last 5 weeks at my parents' house in a row. I spend a fortune on fuel doing the things that I want to do, not the things that I have to do. Maybe going to Iowa this weekend too. I don't know yet. But I took the experiences that I learned living in the Madison area, and I built on them, and I built a life for myself and a work reputation on myself, to the point where, I mean, everybody can still get laid off, but if my company were to survive, it would be really hard for them to make the decision to lay me off. It would be really, really hard for them to do so. I've made a lot out of what little bit I had, both living out in the Madison area and then also the bad relationship that I had with my ex-girlfriend at the time. I mean, hell, I could have been moving here from Madison. You know how much torture that would have been to do that? So, if you get the youngberries, which I am to understand are extremely bitter, take them and make detergent and clean up what's around you. And if you get the lemons, make the lemonade. Make the best out of everything. I know you can. There's some really nerdy nerds out there. Yeah. I could complain, doesn't do any good. That's right, it doesn't do any good. I mean, I do it for mostly entertainment purposes on Contemporary, but really, honestly, it doesn't do any good. You can sit and complain, or you can change things. I chose to change things. And I choose to always have a backup plan in my pocket too, so there's a lot of stuff to go with for that. But yeah, with that, make the best out of everything. Make your detergent. And let's head out of here for the day. What is an ungaberry? They have a link to it in Memory Beta. We can actually go find out. Not much. The ungaberry is a type of plant life form product, a berry fruit cultivated by Ferengi civilization. Okay, never mind. That's all that they know about it. Alright, let's head out of here for the day. An interesting show. Interesting ending. And we actually did make it past 8. I didn't think we were going to. But we do have a full 2-hour stream tonight. And we got through everything too. So if we have another slow news day like this tomorrow, we actually won't make it till 8. But that's what we have for that. Let's throw some outro music up and let's head out of here. Whew! Alright, well, after talking for 2 hours, it's time to head out of here, get something to eat, get a little bit of a shower going on here, and see what goes from there. We'll be back here tomorrow night For more news, more headlines, and more contemporary, we will see what happens in the next 22 hours in the news. If it's anything like today, we're going to have a really, really short show tomorrow because half the stack came from yesterday. But we'll see what happens with that, and we'll see what happens then. If you are on the Twitch side, stick around. I'm going to take the channel out into a raid. So anybody who tunes in after the fact does have somebody to go back and watch. Otherwise, come back and join me here for more. Thanks for joining me. If you join me over on Odyssey, if you're on any of the platforms, and do make sure you hit some of the main channels as well. Some of the chats don't marry with each other. And we do have Rumble coming soon as well. Now that I know how to do that and operate that, we're going to be adding that one because that is Rumble is a very, very good growth platform for right-wing commentary. I'm a little bit sad that I haven't got onto it before this, but that's something that we need to do for that as well, so you can join me over on that. Channel details will come as soon as we get everything active, but all the replays do go over there as well. We will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headline, and more contemporary. And until tomorrow, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.